Well, despite being hated by so many, there's another group of high-profile and influential elites that are on Assange's side. RT correspondent Ramon Galindo joins us now live from Los Angeles for more on this. Ramon, hi. So he's hated by some, loved by others. Why do Assange's supporters see him kind of as a hero?
That's right, Liz. Well, one of the most prominent supporters that we've seen here over the last couple of years of Julian Assange has been U.S. filmmaker Michael Moore. And in fact, over the last several days, he's been trying to encourage some of those supporters that we see out there outside of the Ecuadorian embassy in London to go out there and show their support for Julian Assange. I mean, Michael Moore is so much of a supporter of Julian Assange that he put up thousands of dollars to pay for his bail. And the reason that he says that he did this was that Julian Assange's his only crime was to practice journalism, and he feels that he's unfairly being persecuted because he did expose government leaks. And for these reasons, he believes that we should be thanking Julian Assange and the work that WikiLeaks does for exposing these secrets. He contends that if WikiLeaks was around in the run-up to the Iraq War, we would have been able to know some of the secret negotiations and the secret plannings that were going on, and perhaps we would have not gotten into that war. So he's been definitely one of the most notable and familiar advocates for Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. Now, he was part of a contingent who wrote a letter to Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa just a couple of months ago, asking for the Ecuadorian government to grant Assange asylum. Other celebrities on that letter who signed that letter included Oliver Stone and comedian Bill Maher. And we've also seen in the past musician Tom Morello, musician and activist, sign on to a petition in support of WikiLeaks. So there's definitely some high-profile names who are putting their name on the line for Julian Assange.
All right, so a lot of stars in music and movies putting their support behind him. Aside from Hollywood, Ramon, some high-profile journalists have come out in support of Assange. Can you talk about that?
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, we've seen John Pilger, we've seen Chris Hedges, who is formerly of the New York Times. We've seen Naomi Wolf come out. Definitely, we've seen the organization Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting previously come out and support WikiLeaks. So there have definitely been some crusading journalists who have brought up the point that Julian Assange has not committed a crime. However, they believe that he is being politically persecuted because he did reveal very embarrassing secrets about the U.S. government, and that other journalists should be following the lead of WikiLeaks when it comes to really challenging world powers and really challenging what they are doing with our tax dollars.
And in addition to those names you just mentioned, Salon's Glenn Greenwald is among the journalists voicing his support for Assange. Here he is talking about the whistleblower.
I think the real source of the hostility is the difference between being deferential to political power and being adversarial to it. WikiLeaks, unlike the established media, doesn't maintain the pretense of being adversarial to political power. They are actually adversarial to political power. And the difference is it's not just that that's not how the American media reacts, it's that American journalists, establishment journalists, identify as part of the political structure, as part of the political culture in Washington. So anything that is adversarial to political power, they find and view as an attack on them as well, because they are a part of that culture.
And that was Glenn Greenwald of The Guardian. Ramon, how has Assange proven to separate and kind of alienate himself from the mass media outlets?
Well, that's right. He is revealing secrets that, many years ago, really, there was no sort of organization such as WikiLeaks. So reporters were just completely relying on government press releases and what government officials were telling them. And this really goes to the point that Mr. Glenn Greenwald was making, to where over the past several years, we've seen reporters get more cozy with their sources, more cozy with people who are in power to gain that access, and have really lost that adversarial government watchdog mentality that many around the world really think happens here in the United States. Now, the United States is known as an advocate for free speech, a place where you're free to, vent any sort of opinion and really challenge the government. However, we've definitely seen over the past couple of decades a reluctance to do that, a reluctance to really advocate for the little guy in the media. And, a lot of it does really have to do with something that Chris Hedges talks about, is these journalists trying to get ahead. Now, that being said, it also has prompted independent journalists to start to question more about what these governments are doing, not just the United States government, because WikiLeaks has exposed a lot of wrongdoings, not just in the United States, but also governments in Latin America and in the Middle East.
All right, Ramon, really appreciate you staying on top of this. That was RT correspondent Ramon Galindo.